stories in a way that makes people know, like, and trust you really quickly. I love all the yeses and hellos happening in the chat box, and I'm going to basically just turn things over to Beth. I know she's got action-packed presentation today, and I don't want to spend a ton of time. I will be in the chat box with you guys throughout this process. I'll put myself on mute so that way if I have a small child come visit me throughout the course of this presentation, you won't hear his little 2-year-old voice or the screaming of being nap time. And I'll let Beth take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and get my presentation up here. Give me 1 second, everybody. So welcome aboard, everyone, those of you who are trickling in. And Meg, if you let me know when you can see my full screen presentation, how does that look? Okay, great. All right, so welcome, everyone, to 7 Secrets to Creating an About Page That Converts. I'm super excited to be here with Meg's audience, because I think there's this great overlap, as she mentioned, between SEO and driving traffic to your pages and then making sure those pages actually convert, which is my job as a copywriter. So, and I just realized I was going to turn my video off. I'm going to keep it on so you guys can see my happy face during this. All right, so let's get started with just a couple of administrative details here. People always ask me right at the top, are we going to get the slides? Yes, you definitely are, so don't stress about that. You're going to get all of the slides in a PDF afterward. Don't worry about URLs. So in my webinars, I always give a lot of examples, and I don't want you worrying about writing down URLs or having to copy from the chat or anything like that. I'm going to give you all of those when I send out the slides and everything afterwards, so don't worry about that. You can open up the chat area, as Meg mentioned, to ask questions. So Meg, what I'd love to do is take, if there's a burning question about something that I just said that's unclear or something like that, then we can sort of manage that during the presentation. Otherwise, I'd love to hold most of the questions until the end, especially if it's about specific situations, like I'm this kind of business owner and I'm not sure what to do. Hold those questions until the end. That would be great, and just flag those for me.
Yep, no problem. I will. I'll interrupt. I'll come on screen if we have a question that's
there we go.
Direct correlated.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about why your About page is such a critical marketing tool for your business. I think it's a page that often gets overlooked or sort of gets treated as an afterthought. So we're going to talk about how you can turn it into a page that really benefits your business. Then we're going to talk about the #1 mistake that most people make when they're writing their About page, and then how that hurts your conversions and how to fix that mistake. Then we're going to talk about how to generate more leads and sales from your About page. That's sort of the overarching theme of the whole webinar, is how do I actually get more sales from this? How can this work as an asset for me? And then we're going to discuss how to avoid writer's block when you actually sit down to write. So as Meg mentioned, this is one of those pages that people just groan. If I'm working with somebody in a coaching capacity and I say, okay, it's time to write your About page, and I'm all excited because I know how great these pages can be. And what I get from my clients is just across the board groans. I hate talking about myself, that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about some tips for getting you past that avoidance that we have to talking about ourselves. And then we'll definitely discuss critical elements to include on your About page. I'm going to be giving you my 7 secrets for a successful About page that converts. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. And Meg, I'd love it if you chime in at the end if there's something SEO related that I say something maybe that you can add something SEO related onto it. Definitely feel free to chime in. You could chime in throughout if you have questions too. All right, so a little background on me. I am a copywriter and a content writer. I've done online marketing coaching for years and years, and now I've pivoted to full-time writing pretty much, and doing webinars like this and some master classes on copywriting related topics and conversion topics. I'm a former staff writer for copyblogger.com, which is one of the most well-trusted content marketing sites in the world. You can find me at bethhayden.com if you want to know more about me. All right, so let's talk about why your About page is so important. Your About page, believe it or not, is often the second most popular page on your site. That's what I see with many of my clients when I go in and look at their Google Analytics. So it is a page that gets visited over and over and over again. It is often the page that people will go to right after they click on your homepage. So they may go to services or something like that, and if they're really interested, they might go to your contact page. But if they're new to you and they want to find out more about you, they're likely to click on your About page right after your homepage to find out who you are and to find out more about you. So it's often a page that comes up in search engine results, which of course is Meg's specialty, but you've probably seen this in search engine results where the first page will say, BethHayden.com, and then underneath there will actually be sublinks to places like About or services or things like that that are sort of indented. And for that reason, it is often a page that gets a lot of clicks. Also, if you Google your name, your About page is quite likely to come up. So this is not a page that should be treated as an afterthought because it is going to be getting a lot of traffic. So it answers important questions on visitors' minds and lets them know that they're in the right place. So when somebody is really new to you, they land on their site, and the first question in their mind, and we're going to go into a lot of detail about this, is what is in this for me? So am I in the right place? Could this person help me? Is this relevant to me? And your About page can do a really good job of answering those questions, and I'm going to give you some tips on doing that.
That's really quickly. I have one question from the chat that I feel like we want to clarify in the beginning, which is the difference between copywriting and content writing. You introduced yourself as I'm a copywriter and a content writer, and I just want to clarify the difference.
Yes, and there's a fine line. So I picture the line that I draw with my clients, and these, like I said, it's a fine line between the two, and there's a lot of overlap. Website content is sort of more like blog posts, and I put website content in that too. So your About page content, your services, things like that, things that are assets on your site that will help hopefully drive traffic to your site. And then copywriting is more like the sales copy that drives conversions. So that would be things like a freebie sign-up page on your site, or a sales page for selling an online course or some kind of consulting service or something like that. And I put emails in that category as well. There may be other writers who just call themselves content writers, and they do all of those things, but those are the distinctions that I make. That's a good question. Thanks. All right. Your About page is often a missed opportunity for business owners. So like I said, this is a page that is often sort of treated as an afterthought, especially because people have so much resistance to writing it, and they just sort of whip something out and they say, good, we're finished with that, and they put it up and it's up forever. So because they often don't look at their website content for many years, and it just sort of sits there and not doing a whole lot of heavy lifting because there wasn't a whole lot of, I don't want to say a whole lot of thought, but there may not have been as much care going into it when they first wrote it as we'd like in terms of driving conversion. So if this is a page that often gets, it's an afterthought, that kind of thing, and then it tends to stay up forever, you want to put some effort into it first to make sure that if it's going to sit up there for a while, you could always change it, but if it is going to sit up there for a while, you want to do a good job with it. So it's important to kind of try to build in as much as you can in these conversion triggers and things like that, and the likability and stuff like that. Actually, and I realized I missed a bullet. Let me back up. It builds your credibility and likability. So this is a crucial part. When people get to your site, one of the questions that they're asking in terms of, am I going to buy from this person? Am I going to work with this person if you're a consultant or a sole proprietor of some sort? They're asking themselves, is this person credible? Do they have the chops to solve my problem? And then do I like them? Would I like working with this person? Because it is something that's on our minds all the time. We make buying decisions based on whether we like the brand or the person. That's not the only reason, because we have to build trust with people, of course, but we work with people that we like, essentially. One of the reasons I'm on this webinar with Meg is that I really like her. So it's definitely an important piece of this, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how to build your likability in the page. All right, so why is your About page so hard to write? In short, we freak out. So it is incredibly hard to write about ourselves. So our whole lives, especially as women, but men too, definitely fall in this category. We're told you should be humble, you shouldn't be braggy, it's not okay to toot your own horn, that kind of thing. So when we sit down to write about our credentials and why we're qualified to help our clients, it's really difficult. And we often freeze up, and we have it in mind that the whole thing needs to be this giant wiki Wikipedia page on how awesome we are, or write our life story or something like that, it's really easy to get tied up and to just freeze and say, I actually don't remember what my credentials are. I have no idea, and I don't know how to say that while still being humble. That's where we often get tied up. It's hard to write about ourselves. If you've ever tried to write a little bio for someone to introduce you at a presentation, you know how difficult this is. So these are challenging pages. I'm not going to lie to you, but hopefully these tips will help. So there's two common problems with a lot of about pages that I see. The first problem is that people hide because, again, they're trying to be humble. They feel uncomfortable with putting themselves out there, talking about how awesome they are, talking about how they can help people. And because the page feels like it needs to be all about them and how awesome they are, then they hide. And they don't do a great job of spotlighting what their credentials are and what their authority is and why they're qualified to help. So a lot of people hide. Other people go way too far in the other direction, and they talk about themselves so egotistically that it turns people off. So there's a way to solve this problem, and we're going to be talking about that throughout. But these are the two most common problems. So it's basically underplaying and overplaying, and what you want to do is kind of find a happy medium between these two. So let's get into it. My 7 secrets for writing an about page that converts. First thing is to create a compelling, benefit-driven headline. So a lot of people miss an opportunity because they just put the word about right at the top of their page. And I'm going to show you some examples of more benefit-driven headlines that will catch people's attention. Instead of just saying, hi, I'm Beth, there's an opportunity to show people what you do and show the benefit of working with you, which can be really, really helpful on an about page to draw them in and answer that question, what's in this for me, right there in the headline. So copy hackers, I've learned a ton from Joanna Wiebe, who you see at the bottom here. She teaches copywriters how to get more conversions and has a number of online courses. So, and she teaches small business owners how to do their own copywriting, which is what you see in the benefit headline that she's got right here. So helping great businesses build audiences. So she helps people with things like those freebie subscription pages, emails, things like that, and teaches people how to do their own copywriting. So instead of just saying about Joanna or hi, I'm Joanna, she's got this great benefit-driven headline on here. Copyblogger is another example, and this one is this is more trust-based. So we don't just teach marketing, content marketing, it's how we built our company. So this is saying we've been around for a while, you can trust us, we know we can teach you content marketing, and then the hidden benefit in this is content marketing can help you build your company. So there's a lot going on in this headline. It's very clever. So Enchanting Marketing, this is Hennika, and and I believe I already said I'm going to get you all of these links, so don't stress about writing anything down as far as the URLs. All right, her headline, she does do about Enchanting Marketing at the top, but her sub-headline here I thought was really brilliant, which is, would you like to become a more confident business writer? What she teaches is how to become a conversational business writer that still gets conversions from your writing, your content marketing, and your copywriting. So I thought that was brilliant. I'd love to see it above in the, instead of about Enchanting Marketing, I'd love to see that subheadline a little bit further up. But this is great. It's a great example of an about page. And then Betsy Talbot, so she kind of puts the two together and starts with, my name is Betsy Talbot, and then she says, I help business leaders clarify their offers so they can sell more of them to the right customers. So right there at the top is what she does and how she helps people. So this is how working with Betsy as a copywriter can help you build your business. It's right there, right at the top of her page. So that brings me to the second secret, which is your about page is not just about you. So this is where people get really tied up. So when I mentioned that when they sit down, they tend to freeze up, it's because they think the entire focus needs to be on themselves. And the secret is you need to shift that thinking a little bit. So this is what most business owners do. They picture themselves as the hero of the story. And there is a way of shifting that, which is not only going to make your page better, it's going to make it easier to write. So instead of putting yourself at the center of your about page, and I realize this is counterintuitive, it's an about page, it's supposed to be about you, but it isn't really about you. It's about your customer and whether or not you are qualified to help them solve their problem. So are you the piece of the puzzle that's really going to help them solve the biggest questions that are on their minds? So that's what they're thinking coming in. So Sonia Simone had a great quote about this. So what do your readers find interesting? Themselves and the things that benefit them. So when it comes to your about page, that's actually what you're leading with. And then you can guide them through a little bit of your story and who you are and why you're qualified and the likability factors and things like that. But your lead off really needs to be, this is how I can help you. And when you make that shift and you put your customer in the sort of role of the hero of your page, things really loosen up and get a lot easier in terms of writing. So the main questions that you're answering on your about page is, number one, who is this person? You would be surprised at the number of people who do not have their full name on their about page or have their full name anywhere on their site. I am always shocked at the number of people who do that. Now, if your name is in your domain, that's great. People may not be looking there. So you still need to put it somewhere in your about page, whether it's in the headline or the first line. You should be saying, I'm Beth Hayden, and et cetera, et cetera. So then the next question in people's minds is, can this person actually help me solve my problem? So I've got this huge issue that I'm dealing with, whatever that looks like for your audience. People are coming in saying, is there any chance this person could actually help me out of this situation that's keeping me up at night? And then, can I trust this person? So this is where your credentials and your story come into it. I'm not going to say those parts aren't important, but they are in support of this, of this question, which is, can this person help me solve my problem? Your credentials will help people feel better about engaging with you, buying with you, trusting you, and they really think this person can definitely help me solve my problem because she's been doing this for 20 years or whatever your credential is, or she has a master's degree in nutrition, she's a certified nutritionist, that kind of thing. All right, would I like working with this person? So again, this gets back to a likability kind of factor. And this can come through in your image, the photos that you include, which we're going to talk about in a second. And it also comes through in your writing voice. So you want to try to have your page be friendly and approachable, especially if you have a more conversational audience or the conversation. If you have a conversational kind of vibe with your audience, then this is the perfect way to act like your main customer is sitting in front of you at a coffee shop and you're just chatting with them. How would you speak to them? What words would you use? And you can be yourself on your page. This is really critical. If people are trying to figure out if they'd like working with you, you don't want to present yourself as something that you're not. And then they get a bad surprise when they buy your courses or they work with you as a consultant, that kind of thing. They're trying to decide if they like you. So, and then one of the biggest questions too is, what's in this for me? So how can this, again, help me solve my problem? What is not on the page, and you'll see this was missing from the list, your life story. So we do not need to know that you, when you were 5 years old, were hit with the desire to become a copywriter, that kind of thing, and you've always wanted to be a writer, and the story of your first published piece when you were in 4th grade, et cetera, et cetera. That isn't relevant to the question, what's in it for me, that is on your readers' minds. So be really careful not to do this. If you're going to tell stories, and you can, I'm going to show you some ways to do that, make sure they don't go on for a long time, and make sure that every detail of the story that you're telling is relevant to that question, what's in it for me, that's coming from your reader. All right, Betsy does a fantastic job of this. So instead of starting out with, I've been a copywriter for 20 years, Betsy goes into, here's what your struggles are. So I know for a fact that you're struggling to explain to prospects why you're the best choice. So she's speaking directly to the target audience that she is trying to reach and saying, I get what you're going through. And then Chris Ducker does a phenomenal job. I'm going to have him as an example several times in this. So chrisducker.com. And he does a lot of branding work. He helps small businesses grow. He's got a major conference that he does called Youpreneur. And he starts off, first of all, with a fantastic headline right at the top, personal brand entrepreneur, good, et cetera, et cetera. And then in the body copy on his about page here, it says, even if you've been successful in business for years, times are changing. So he doesn't start out with his credentials or his life story. He's talking directly to the customer and what their needs are. So this is a fantastic example. All right, put most of the most important information above the fold. So what do I mean by above the fold? This is an old image that I've been using forever. So, and I do want to say these rules about above the fold and below the fold are not quite as relevant now as they were 10, 15 years ago because of all the mobile technology that we're using. However, it is still important. There are going to be a lot of people who are looking at your website on a laptop computer or a desktop computer. So it is important that you put the most important information front and center. So this is a screenshot of the Marketing Sherpa blog page, and you can see the middle line where it says the fold. That's the stuff that they're not going to see unless they scroll. Everything underneath where it says below the fold, that is the stuff that they're not going to see unless they scroll down. Everything above the fold, they should be able to see that right away if they're on a decent sized screen. So you want to have the stuff that really needs to get their attention, benefit-driven headline, talk at the beginning, answering the question, what's in this for me, etc. You want to have that front and center. That is also still important on mobile. So you always want to look at your about page, anything on your site on mobile, to make sure that it's coming up the way that you want it to come up and that it loads quickly and looks right. But with your about page in particular, make sure that the first things they're seeing are messages that really land with them. So Optimize My B&B, this is actually he's a consultant that helps you make more money from your Airbnb rentals, which I think is a brilliant niche, by the way. I think that's so smart. This is a shot of his homepage, but I thought it was so smart that I wanted to share this with you too, and I'm going to show you his about page in a second. So right at the top, right above the fold, he's got the name of his business, a great tagline, supercharge your listing, and then he says, here's who I am. I'm Danny. I worked at Airbnb for 3 years, so his credential is right there on his homepage so that people trust him. And then the benefit is I help Airbnb hosts make more money. Really, really compelling stuff from a copywriting perspective. And then he gives people 2 options for things to do next as a call to action, which is really smart. This is his about page, which I thought was interesting. This is a little bit different approach, but it's got this nice warm picture of him asking at the top, why hire me? And then he gives his credentials in sort of bullet points like this that are really easy to read and scan. So I thought this was a good way of doing it too. And so he's answering the question in this, what's in it for me? And he's relying really heavily on his experience as a former Airbnb employee, because people in their minds will be looking at this and saying, oh, I trust this guy, so I know that he's going to be able to help me. So that answers the question, what's in it for me? Chris Ducker, again, does a great job with this. So this shot that I had is what's above the fold when you go to Chris Ducker's site. All right. Include a photo that highlights who you are. So you'd be surprised how many pages I see that don't have a photo on them. And this is a really good way to build that likability factor that we talked about. So Nerd Fitness is a great site for sort of nerdy people who don't consider themselves super fit but would like to get in shape. And they've got this wonderful community. I'm reasonably sure this picture was taken at one of their community events, because what they're selling with Nerd Fitness is their community. So you wouldn't necessarily want a shot like this or a shot on their about page that's just the founder, because what they're selling is this. So the opportunity to be involved in a great community like this. And I think this is such a happy photo, and it's fun, which is a big part of their brand. And we're going to talk about that more in just a bit. All right, back to Optimize B&B. So the photo here, like I said, super warm and friendly. And then he's got the little, cartoon kind of thing that says, hi, I'm Danny. So he includes his name there. And come to think of it, I didn't check to see if he's got his full name on his about page. Chances are it's further down on the page. And I should say too, not every example that I'm showing follows every single rule. So you will see some things that might be a little contradictory, but I'm highlighting the parts that they're following really super well. So keep that in mind. So love this photo of Danny. Looks really likable. Looks like somebody that I'd be willing to talk to and consult with. All right, Sarah Gabriel, great photo of her. She's a professional organizer who specializes in helping people move. And professional organizers need to look warm and friendly, and they also need to be able to sort of manage chaos. That's what they're known for. So I love this picture of Sarah. It shows her warmth, but it also shows her in the midst of what's a pretty chaotic, room here, so that people feel like they could invite her into their chaotic home and their chaotic move, and they can trust her to be totally okay with the chaos and be able to make order out of that chaos. All right, another thing that you can do with your page, this is sort of a bonus one, if I had to list a bonus one, but it's great if you can do it. So it is wonderful to eliminate objections. So these are the things that are on people's minds where they think this isn't going to work for me. That is the main question, another big question actually, that people are thinking when they land on your site. Whether this is your about page or a sales page, this is sort of a universal copywriting thing where you got to deal with those things that come up that stop people from working with you. So answer the question, this won't work for me because ... and then fill in. We all feel like we're special snowflakes and that our situation, we're the only ones who have ever had that particular problem or that variation of a problem. One of the things I hear often from my clients is, I'm only a one-person business. Can this copywriting stuff work for me? I'm in XYZ niche. How can I possibly blog? I'm a funeral director. There's no way I can blog about that. We all assume that our situation is special, and we are special. We're all unique. I get that. But we also always assume that we're alone and that things that we're reading are not going to apply to us because of that specialness. So that is a question that is on people's minds. So if there's something that you can do to counteract those objections, absolutely you can do that on your about page. So Nerd Fitness, great example. These are not fitness buffs that are going to gyms all the time and they're just looking to level up and that kind of thing. These are people who are potentially out of shape and they consider themselves sort of nerdy, otherwise this wouldn't really appeal to them. And one of the things that comes up for them in terms of an objection is this is gonna suck. Getting in shape is awful. So what Nerd Fitness does on their about page is address that objection and say, we can actually make this fun. Believe it or not, you can get in shape and have fun doing it. So this is a brilliant example of how to adjust an objection. And it's built into the messaging and the page, and it's so slick that you just sort of, you scan right through it and you don't even know that they've just addressed an objection that's on your mind. But it really helps to cement that we're fun, we're going to make this fun kind of message. Sarah does a good job with this on her page too. So she tells a story, and this is a great use of a story. So this is a perfect way to include personal stories into your about page. One of the things that comes up for people who hire professional organizers is this person is going to be judgmental of me because I'm such a mess and they're so organized, and chances are they were born that way and they've never known anything else, and they're going to be appalled by the horrible chaos in my house. So Sarah addresses that right here in her page. And she says, I was disorganized when I was a kid and when I was a teenager. And she talks about how her college roommate drew a line down the center of their room and said, Sarah's stuff has to stay on her side because apparently it was migrating to the other side of the room. So, but then she talks about her transformation. So here's what happened after I graduated from college, and here's how I became organized. And people have commented on this page when they call Sarah to book her moving services, her unpacking and organizing services. And they say, one of the reasons I wanted to call you was because of your about page and the story. So I didn't feel like you were going to judge me, basically, is what people say. And that's the power of a story like this. So she doesn't tell her life story in this, but she tells a relevant part of her story in order to address that objection and really connect with people. And this also makes her incredibly likable. So it really makes her feel like somebody you want to invite into your home, which is really helpful too. All right, number 6, include a call to action. So this is the place where you can start turning your about page into subscribers and sales. So one of the things that people are going to be wondering when they get to the end of your about page is, what do I do next? So whether that's a step that I can take to stay connected with you so that you send me updates in my inbox so that I can just stay on top of what you're doing, or book a consult if you're a consultant or a sole proprietor and the next step is to get on the phone with you for 30 minutes. You want to give people that step right away, because at the end of your about page, they are primed for knowing, liking, and trusting you. So if you do your job right on your about page, it's done some really heavy lifting for you, and people are like, great, I really want to do this. this. I want to join Nerd Fitness. I want to book Sarah as a personal organizer and a moving, unpacking person. So what do I do next? You don't want to leave them hanging on that. You always want to give them some next steps. So let's look at some examples of that. ProBlogger has an enormous mailing list, and they prompt people right at the bottom. So they have a benefit-driven headline. Every week we're going to send you blogging advice, in-depth tutorials, etc. And then they have that selling point of this huge community of bloggers, which is a great authority builder. So people are saying, well, if 300,000 other bloggers trust this person, then I should too, and it gets people to sign up. That's right at the bottom of Darren Rouse's ProBlogger About page. Optimize My B&B, so that's the one I showed you a couple of frames ago. He's got this sort of double call to action at the bottom. I believe Optimize My Listing goes to possibly a consult with him as a next step. And then Calculating My Revenue, he gives people this quick calculator to see how much money they could be making with their Airbnb, which is a brilliant giveaway. And chances are both of these give him the opportunity to get people's email addresses. So this is a great next step for people. And then Leah, who's my business coach, Leah Niederthal, she has at the bottom of her About page, want to see if we're a good fit, and then a prompt to set up a 15-minute call. I'm reasonably sure that this button goes directly to a booking calendar, so you can actually get on the team member's calendar right away and speak to a team member about what Leah does. So this is great if you, again, are a sole proprietor, a consultant, that kind of thing, and you need people to get on the phone with you as a next step. So this is great too. All right, so you at this point have put a lot of hard work into writing your About page. You're following these rules, you've got the likability factor, that kind of thing. So you've done the work of creating an About page. What you don't want to do is hide your page. And this is a huge mistake that I see people make. So they make the page difficult to find. They don't put it in their navigation bar. They don't have a link to it anywhere on their homepage. Or worse yet, they call it something that makes it confusing. That's the biggest mistake that I see people make, or one of the biggest mistakes. So the main rule with this is if you're going to make your page easy to find, don't get cute. That's the bottom line. Call your page something simple. So you don't want to make people work for it. If they're scanning through your navigation bar, they shouldn't have to stop and think, wait, what does that actually mean? What does that word mean? Should I be clicking on that? You want to make this painfully obvious that your About page is your About page and put it where people can find it. So you don't want to call it Experience or The Scoop. I've seen all of these, by the way. The Scoop, Me. So that one's confusing because the reader is thinking, wait, are you talking about me as the reader, or is she talking about me as the person writing the site? That's confusing. You don't want to call it, but wait, there's more. People don't know what that means. Is that a bio of you? Is it an offer? Is it something else? Is it late night television? It's very confusing. Don't call it something woo-woo like Resonate. Even if you are a personal coach, your About page still needs to be very, very clear, and people need to know they can click on that to find out more about you and whether you can solve their problem. So don't use words like Resonate and things like that people are not going to understand, and they're just going to raise an eyebrow and then, by the way, click away from your site and go somewhere else, and you've lost them. So don't miss an opportunity here. You don't want to use anything that isn't immediately recognizable as your About page. So let me give you some options. These are pretty straightforward. Don't call it, or do call it About Me, About Us. Bio it's not great. I would rather that you call it one of these three. So this is really, really clear. And the best option of all three of these is About. It's short, sweet, doesn't take up a whole lot of room in your navigation bar, and people know exactly where they need to go to find out more about you. So don't get cute.
If you're working with a team, you'd prefer About Us to something like Our Story?
I would, because Our Story makes it sound like you're going to be sitting down and listening to a huge long story, like their life story kind of thing. I'd prefer About, to be honest. It's not bad. It's better than Resonant. or resonance? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Unless your story is the main thing that you were talking about in your entire page, but you don't want to raise questions in people's minds. You want it to be clear. Here's where to go to find out more about me. So yeah, what do you think about that though, Meg?
Our story, I'm like, I don't want a story. I just want to know if this person can help me.
Well said. That's perfect. Exactly. I don't want to know your life story. That's what I would worry about if you're using something like that.
No, I don't want to have to meet you. I just want to know what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing it and how you can help me. And I think about is sort of like a shorthand for that.
Yes.
And also, it's really clear to Google when you say this is my about page what that is. But then if you go into like our story or meet me or something like that, it's not quite as clear what the goal of that page is. I think sometimes we're working so hard to set ourselves apart that we make it difficult to navigate. So not even so much about, sorry, I've been not talking for a while. So apparently now I'm getting all the ideas out.
No, it's okay. Please.
A lot of what I do in my business is making sure that people are going to the right pages on our site in the order we want them to go to. And we want them to go to our about pages and we want them to know what it is. So I think just sticking out and letting Google send people because they know what an about page is. Yeah, Christy says, basically don't be cute.
Yes, don't be cute. That's the main rule. Don't do it.
Can you use our story as a subheadline? I don't think it's necessary. I think the point is to get to the point of not here's who we are and here's what our story is, but like, how can I help you? Think about this less as about me and more about how we can work together and the relationship we can build.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's all about putting your reader as the hero of this story, even on your about page. And like I said, I realize this is counterintuitive, but it does work. And that doesn't mean you're not coming up at all on the page. They want to know your credentials. They want to know your expertise and that you're qualified. But that is secondary to that question, can this person help me? So, okay, great. Anything else, Meg? Are we good?
We're good. We'll have a conversation. We're having a pretty good chat in the chat box about all. Well, so I'm trying to field everything, and we have a couple questions put on for the end for you, too.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. So all that being said, how do you actually sit down and write the thing? So now I feel like I may have paralyzed you even worse by giving you all these rules and all these, these things that your about page has to do. You have to be likable. You have to talk about yourself, but not too much. Like I really feel like now your hands are completely tied and you're never going to sit down to write the thing. So I want to try to take some of the pressure off. So here's some writing tips from a working copywriter for how to get through a piece where you have resistance to sitting down and writing. And it happens to me too, whether it's my own content. I find my own about page difficult to write. So, and about pages are challenging no matter what. So if you're feeling resistance, here are some of the things that you can do. Create an outline. And I realize that sounds silly for an about page. A lot of people would create an outline for a blog post and things like that, but an outline gives you some kind of framework for what you're trying to say on the page. It gives you something to go by rather than just staring at a blank page, because there's nothing worse than that. It is paralyzing. So create an outline. Write down just a couple of bullet points about what you'd like to include. Starting with, you can just put a placeholder saying benefit headline. And then you can start with, addressing that question, what's in it for me? And can this person help me solve my problems? So you've got that at the beginning. And then go from there. If you want to include elements of your personal story, you got to include your credentials, that kind of thing. You can outline all of that so that you can jump into any part of that outline. If it feels too confronting to start with your headline, you can start at the end. Start with your call to action. If you know exactly where you're going to be sending people at the end, then start there. Jump into the point that you have the least resistance to, and then build on that. Set a timer. So this is another crucial one. You can do absolutely anything for 20 minutes. I guarantee it, no matter how painful it is to talk about yourself. If you set a timer for 20 minutes, you'll be able to sit down and write for 20 minutes. The key is to try to keep your pen moving or your keyboard moving and don't stop during that time. So if you're going to write for 20 minutes, then promise yourself, I'm just going to keep writing words no matter what they are, even if it says blah, blah, blah at the end. I'm going to keep my hands moving until this timer goes off. That is a way to get past the blocks of, I sound too braggy, that kind of thing. Setting a timer can really, really help. if you feel like you're not a good writer, because I hear this from a lot of my clients, I'm not a good writer, it isn't what I want to do, I'd rather speak. It is 100% okay to talk into some kind of voice recorder. They're everywhere. They're going to be on your laptop, they're on your phone, they're on your iPad. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to use some kind of voice recorder to just record yourself talking about yourself. And you can pretend, right at the beginning especially, you can pretend that you've got one of your favorite clients sitting in front of you to address that what's in it for me kind of question. If you're going into, here's how I understand your problem, the way that Betsy Talbot did a couple of slides ago, you can just pretend you're sitting there talking to the person, and it really helps because we have an easier time talking than we do writing. Many of us, it just comes more naturally. So talk it out. You can always transcribe it. There's cheap transcription services out there. You could always just re-listen to it, pick out the good parts, but it gives you a place to start and gets over that blank page kind of fear. Again, writing a letter to your favorite customer. So you can either speak in a voice recorder or sit down and say, okay, my favorite client is sitting in front of me. I'm going to write a letter to them about how I understand what they're going to or going through, and I can help. So that can really help as well. Just picture one person. It gets very overwhelming to think all of these people are going to read this. That's another reason why we get really tied up when you think about the traffic that could be coming to the page. Instead, just pick one and write to that one person. This is a good copywriting tip in general, by the way. All right, don't edit and write at the same time. One of the reasons we get stuck is that we write a sentence and we say, oh, that's crap. Delete, delete, delete. So don't do that to yourself. Just get some words down on the page. What you need is a crappy first draft. All right, that's all you need to get started with. And then you can edit from there, and you can edit this thing as many times as you want, but you've got to get something down on the page. And you can do that thing where you write the sentence and then hit delete 100 times and still end up with a blank page after 20 minutes. Don't do that to yourself. Just get your thoughts out. And then writing tip number 6, getting feedback really does help because this is a challenging page to write, and I'm going to give you a way to get some feedback in just a second. But it is important to just put it in front of somebody like a customer or somebody that you trust to say, how does this sound? Does it sound like me? Is it likable? Does it really answer these 6 or 7 tips that Beth gave me? If you read this and you were brand new to me, would you want to sign up for my list? Would you want to work with me? And just ask those questions. All right, so reviewing the 7 secrets that we've gone over. Secret 1, create a compelling headline for your page. Your about page is not about you. That's, again, the sort of the theme for this whole presentation. You think it is, and it's not. Put the most important information above the fold so it's front and center. Include a photo that highlights who you are. Eliminate objections is a kind of our bonus one. You may not be able to do that in every page, but if you can, it's great. Include a call to action at the bottom. And then make your about page easy to find. Don't get cute. So that's what we've gone over. All right, I want to just give you a pep talk and say you can absolutely do this. So with the writing tips and these guidelines, I absolutely feel confident that people can write their own about page, and it is something that you can tackle. So I believe in you. This is your pep talk for this presentation. You can absolutely do this, and you can get past that resistance that we have to talking about ourselves. So if you do need some help, I have a little bit of a secret weapon for you for creating an about page that converts. I'm offering, as a webinar special for Meg's audience, the top to bottom about page review. So this is your opportunity to get feedback on your page after you've got those words out, after you've done the best job that you can, and I can point out for you some places where you can get more conversions and you can get more sales. So this is the simple, easy way to turn your about page into a hardworking asset that gives you more subscribers and more sales. So here's what you're going to get with your top to bottom review. A comprehensive review of the entire about page by an experienced copywriter, that being me, and that includes the layout of the page, what's above the fold, the secrets that we've been talking about, the copy on the page, and the images. You're going to get a friendly walkthrough video from me that actually has me sharing your screen or my screen where I'm going through your About page and I'm giving you feedback on each specific part so you know exactly what I'm talking about with each piece of feedback. And then you get a step-by-step prioritized list of all the action items. So after you've watched the video, you can go to this Google document that shows you, what am I supposed to do first? What is the most important thing that Beth recommends? And what is stuff that's further down on the list and might be optional for a second or third draft of this? So that's what you're going to get with this review. Couple quick testimonials from clients who've been happy with my work and my feedback. This is Matt Lee. I rewrote a freebie landing page for him that actually led to a free call with a salesperson, and we boosted its conversion rate from 1% to 25%. And then this is Kristen Bauer, and she usually sends her sales materials my way and says, you know, look over this and give us feedback on how we can get more conversions. So here's a quick testimonial from her. She's been able to increase conversions, improve engagement and her click-through rate, and drive more sales. And then monarchbutterflygarden.net with Tony, I gave him some advice that boosted his traffic to 30,000 visitors a month. All right, benefits real quick. We're going to get to your questions in just a second. So benefits of getting feedback on your About page. You have a safety net when you're writing that will free you up. So you're not going to feel quite as paralyzed when you know, I'm going to write this thing, then Beth is going to look at it and she's going to give me some feedback. You are going to find, whoops, so there's a typo there, find mistakes and pitfalls that you can't see. So I'll be able to spot those for you. And then you make the most of the time that you're spending revamping your page. So if you are going to put the time and energy into this, why not make the most of it and make it the best that you possibly can in terms of conversions? And then you get more email subscribers, more leads, more sales. You have a page that you can feel proud to share, because I really want you to feel good about sending people to your site. I see a lot of website embarrassment out there. Meg, I'm sure you do too, where it's like, don't look at my site, it's awful. Like, here it is, but don't look too closely. So I want you to feel proud of this About page, and you can do that. So your About page then can be a sort of set it and forget it asset for you for years to come. So of course you're going to update it with things like new credentials and stuff like that, but if it's working for you, it is something that you can put in place and it can just keep working for you day or night, 24/7. All right, special webinar only price for this feedback is just $129, and we're going to share a link in just a second. So this is just for Meg's folks. So you get the whole shebang with the video walkthrough and all of that for $129. This is where you can get it, and Meg, if you can put this into the chat, and then we're going to get some questions in just a second. So if you do have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. But I'd love to review your About page. So this is just BethHayden.com About page review. This is what you're going to see. It's going to take you straight to a checkout page. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for you. So this is just a checkout page. You put in your credit card number, you hit this orange pay button, and then you're going to get a sort of automated confirmation. But then later on today, you'll get an email from me with instructions for actually submitting your page for review. Main thing that comes up for people when I give them this kind of offer is, but I don't have time to write it right now. I'm swamped, I'm overwhelmed by quarantine and stress, and my kids are at home, I'm trying to work from home, this kind of thing. I'm hearing this a lot from folks. So what I'm offering is that you have 2 full years to submit your About page and get feedback. So from the time that you buy, you have a full 2 years to be able to write this thing and get feedback to me, or get feedback from me. The other thing that often comes up for people is that they feel like they don't really want to shine. They don't want to poke their head up from the little hole that they've been in. They feel scared. They don't really want to be visible like this. But I want to tell you that I'm very gentle with my reviews, and I start out with every single one with a list of celebrations. Here's the things that you've done beautifully. So I don't want you to worry about me being a battle axe when I'm giving you this feedback. It will be gentle. It will be helpful. All right, quick review again, what you're going to get: comprehensive review, video walkthrough, step-by-step list of all your action items, and then you're going to turn your About page into an asset that does hard work for you 24/7. All right, one more final look at the URL, and again, Meg put it into the chat, and we are going to take some questions. So Meg, are you still with us?
Sure I am, and we have 13 questions.
Fantastic. All right. Lay it on me.
All right. So let's see here. Sort them in the order that they came in. Okay, so first, before we get started, I have something that I just want to clarify or have you clarify, which is you said a couple times that About Page can help with conversions. I would love if you could define what a conversion would look like from an About Page, just to make sure we're all on the same page with the technical definition.
What I mean by conversion is that someone actually buys from you. So the way that this often works is that it will drive a sale to a buy now button. If you're offering a course or some kind of online product or something that's available immediately, you'll be able to get more sales if you do a phenomenal job on your About Page. And for people like Leah or you and me, Meg, where we're driving people often to a 15-minute or 30-minute sort of consultation call to begin with, what your About Page does is just lays a foundation so that people like you and trust you before they even get on the phone with you, because they've resonated with what you've written on your About Page. So that can lead to more sales even from 15-minute phone calls and things like that. So that's what I meant by that.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. Question for you is difference between the text that's on your homepage and your About Page. How do you write them a little bit differently?
That's a great question. And homepages are a whole nother art. We could do a whole nother webinar on homepages. But one of the things you want to do right away on your homepage is make it clear what you're offering. And this is, again, it's a little counterintuitive to what some people say. You want to say what you're offering and how it benefits people. So it may not be, there's a very fine line, like you saw with the Airbnb guy. Either one almost could have been his About Page. So there's... At the risk of
it's a tough one. That's why I was like, I'm not even trying to answer this.
It's a really, really hard question because there is some overlap between the two, because both jobs have both pages have the job of answering that question, what's in this for me and why do I care about this? So your messaging does need to be a little different. So they're not going to be obviously the exact same message, but there are ways of sort of slanting your About Page a little bit more toward you and your expertise instead of saying, this is what I offer. So that's not a great answer, but I could talk about it for another half hour and it would still be a little fuzzy to people. So.
Yeah, and I think the idea is that the homepage, this is my opinion on it, I'm not a copywriter, the homepage is more of an introduction to your business.
Yes,
and the
great way to put it.
An introduction to who you are.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it. Exactly. Yes.
And so, I'm, the founder of Love at First Search. So the homepage is, this is what Love at First Search is. And the About Page is like, this is why I started it and this is how it can help you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But they know kind of what they can get when they land on your homepage. It's like, what can Meg actually offer? Nice. So yes, brilliant way to sum that up. Thank you.
Okay. I'll throw you two curveball questions. Should you put your face of your picture on your homepage and your About Page? And if you have a team page, should you have your face on your About Page and your team page twice? Like put it in both places?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer to whether or not you should put it on your homepage is it depends on what your business is and what you do. So for somebody like Nerd Fitness, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to have a picture of the founder. I don't think he does. I didn't actually look on Nerd Fitness, but his is a larger organization. So what they're selling is the company. It's not a personal brand. Like you, me, Meg, Leah, the coach, Sarah, those are personal brands where, yes, you probably need to put your photo at least somewhere on the homepage. It may not be in the sort of hero area above the fold on your homepage, but if you're a personal coach, then heck yeah, you probably want to put your own photo above the fold, like right at the top on your homepage. So then the team page versus the About Page, it depends, again, on your business structure. So if you're going to have a separate page saying sort of about the founder or about me, and it is just focused on you, then you might not want to duplicate and then again put your photo on your team page. It might just be who the rest of your team is. If you have a virtual assistant or if you have a larger team, that kind of thing. So you may not want to double up, but it depends on whether you're a personal brand. It really depends. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on that, Meg?
Yeah, I would say, just as an example, because I've been watching the examples you've been giving, it's like Joanna Wiebe is the founder of Copy Hackers. So the homepage of Copy Hackers this is the community that we've developed. This is how we help writers. This is our end goal. And then the About Page is, I'm Joanna. This is why I started this. So you don't need to have your face on the homepage. Right. You do need to have it on your about page there. And then if you're having a whole section on it, that whether it's a section of your about page or a specific kind of team section of your homepage, I would still put your name there with your title, at least for SEO, to be able to say, like, I'm Beth and I have this role, and this is Risa and she has this role, and be able to make those correlations. So if somebody is then later on looking for conversion copywriter, it's on the top of your page and it's in the team section of your page, and you're showing that you're the leader of the team. Yeah. So I would say go for both.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Yeah. It definitely depends on your business, but I agree with that feedback, especially if you're the head of your company. It's trickier with larger companies, I think, because it's sort of like, who do we put a photo of, or does it need to be a photo of the whole team, like Copyblogger often does, a group photo of their entire team. And so that approach can work as well. But anyway, I'm going to give an answer that says it depends. But I loved your answer, Meg. I think those are great points.
Yes. And you know what? If you have a question about it, get your about page review, and Beth will tell you what's specific for your company.
Exactly. Yes.
Maureen asked, is there a difference in the way that you write for B2C and B2B when it comes to your website and your about page?
Not necessarily. And again, Meg, I'm very curious about your take on this too. But if you're writing for B2B, you are still writing for people. And even with B2B decisions, they're still basing part of their decision on whether you're likable and whether they would want to work with you, and definitely whether you can solve their problem. So I don't think there's a ton of difference in the about page, because you're still just building that likability, that kind of thing. Perhaps with B2B, you might steer away from the super personal stories. Like, they may not care so much that you live in Massachusetts with your husband and your 2 cats, So as far as that is concerned, but then again, I'm not necessarily somebody who recommends that anyway. So be careful with the personal details if you've got a B2B kind of audience, but it depends on what kind of businesses you're working with. So yeah, I would say you're still writing for people and you're still trying to answer those big questions. So yeah.
I say the same thing, which is whatever type of problem you're solving, whether it's more of a lifestyle or personal problem, or it's a business solution, you still have pain points that you're talking about. You're still talking about developing a relationship with people. You're trying to tell them how you can fix whatever it is that they're working on and what they're coming to you for. So I think, yes, probably the tone that you're talking in might be a little bit different, but the goals of the About page or About Us page would be very similar.
Definitely. And your tone is absolutely dictated by who you are and what your audience needs from you. Whether it's formal or conversational, that's all going to be dictated by the mindset of your reader coming in and who that person is.
Yes. All right.
These are great questions.
Really great questions, right? Okay, so I think this one is the next obvious question from that, which is, should you write your About page in first person or third person?
If you're talking about a group of people, I believe,
I know, right?
Yeah, these questions are tough because all of them, the answer is it depends. It depends on your business. I often lean more toward recommending a first-person kind of approach, but it depends. If you've got if it's a large business, that kind of thing, then it might be smarter to talk about yourself in the third person. So it definitely depends. If you're a personal brand, it needs to be first person. If it's just you and you've got a very small company and what you're selling is basically you, then talk about it in first person. That's what I'd say.
And I would say a lot of it is dependent on your brand voice, and how you want people to feel on your page. You can still, even if you have a company with multiple employees, you can still use we. You can use that first person plural. Yes. So it doesn't have to be like the company did this and this person was the founder. It can be more inclusive. It really depends on how you want your relation. I keep coming back to relationships. It's what's your relationship with people? Is it we? Because then you can also kind of include that person who's reading it in the conversation, or is it us and you?
Yes.
Sometimes you want a bit more formality. How formal do you want to be? I think. I don't think that there's a hard rule on that one.
No, there really isn't. It's completely dependent on your company, your reader, and your brand, for sure.
Okay. Jay asked, what about a short video on your About page?
Yeah, videos are great. I just am not a huge fan of the video-only approach. So there are some people who love video and some people who hate it. So you don't want to rely on a single video. There's a large content marketing person who does this. This entire about page is just a video about himself. And I don't recommend that approach, because there are going to be lots of people who are like, I don't have time to watch a video, even if it's only 5 minutes. What they want to do is scan your page and get what they need to get, which is, can they help me with my problem? Are they credentialed? Does this make sense to talk to this person and take the next step? So if you're going to include a video, include some text too. So make sure you've got both to satisfy both parts of your audience. And make the video short. Absolutely make the video short. Sorry.
Oh my God, no, please. I don't want to watch 15 minutes of your video. I said the same thing in the chat box, essentially, which is that both for SEO, because Google cannot watch videos, and for user experience, we absolutely still need to have text on that page, which is going to lead me to my next question of what the word count should be. So get yourself ready on that one, Beth.
Yeah.
And, because Google can't watch videos, we want the text below it. We want it to be both scannable by people who are reading it and indexable by those Google robots, so that you can show up in search results for the words on that page. Mm-hmm. And there are people who have visual impairments or some sort of, they need the accessibility of the words on the page. So think about them. Mm-hmm. And also, like, from personal experience, I don't like watching videos, especially because I'm often scrolling people's websites on my phone and my kids are there, and the minute a video turns on, they're on my lap to watch it. So it's always better to have more solutions and more options and let people choose how they want to interact with you than to make that decision for them and exclude a section of your audience.
Absolutely. Yes. That's a great answer. Yep.
Okay. Word count.
There is no hard and fast rule on that. So what I want you to do is follow these 7 rules and don't write one word more than you need. So that is my rule about it. Once you've done your job, stop writing. So you're not trying to get to a certain word count, but you're also not trying to just write 2 lines on this thing either. So if you do your job, your page can be a little bit longer and you can keep people, engaged, but it doesn't have to be long. I've seen some really short, really effective about pages. So you got to follow the rules, make sure you're answering all these questions, doing all the rules that we talked about, and then after that, stop writing. Don't fill it with fluff under any circumstances. So, but Meg, I'm not
answering you. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not answering from an SEO perspective. I'm answering from a reader perspective. So yes. I'm not a huge fan of super long pages that go on and on and on, but I still want you to do your job, the job of the about page. So Meg, I'm wincing here because we're going to give contradictory answers. What do you say?
I think this is the first time that we've diverged. And it's been an hour, so that's a good thing, right? But you have to think about, multiple disciplines and multiple types of things that are using your website, whether that's a robot or a human. Yeah. I say minimum 500 words.
Okay.
If you go less than that, then Google, there's not a lot for it to index. There's not a lot for it to look through and figure out who you are. Yes. And if you have more images or code on your page than you have text in that ratio, then it can be penalized for looking like what's called thin content. So let's go with 500 words minimum. There's my answer. I don't want to give a either. I don't want you to have to strive to hit 2,000 if you don't have 2,000 words to say, but you talk for 2 minutes and you got 500 words. So don't feel like the text will come back in. You may have more to say than you think you do.
That's what I was going to say, actually. So we're not contradicting each other at all, because what I would say is the advice that I've given, it is very unlikely you're going to be able to do all the things that I've recommended here in less than 500 words. So you don't want to go so minimal on this thing that you're not, doing the job of the page and you're not answering the questions that are on people's minds. So if it's under 500 words, it's going to be challenging. It's difficult to do. That's why I don't recommend for blog posts that you just put something up that's 400 words. What does it say? Is it useful? Is it interesting? It's hard to do that in 400 words. 400 words goes by fast. So we're actually in total alignment on that, Meg. So I agree with you. There, I brought it back together.
Okay, we have merged. Let's see, Michael is a designer and he created a crossover, our work page that is an about us plus a portfolio. Is this a good idea or should they be separate?
I would love to see your portfolio as a design person as a separate link in your website, because people may not know that they need to go to your about page to see your portfolio. So I'm not sure how you want to manage that. You can tell us a little bit more, but Meg, I would love to see it as a portfolio because it's a different need where people say, all right, I want to know if you're qualified as a designer and if you can help me. And they click on about, and then then the other question is, I want to see examples of your work. And that's why they go to portfolio. So I don't think there's anything wrong with featuring things from your portfolio at the bottom of your about page, but I wouldn't make it your only portfolio. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, I just realized that people are still having chats in the box while I've had my questions open. So guys, if you've asked a question since we started the Q&A, I will get to them in the chat box in just a minute. I wanted to answer, Stephanie had this really great technical question. So Beth, you can take a breath, take a sip of water. Stephanie asked, in terms of SEO, are you saying that navigation titles should be about, like the top navigation screen should say about, but the URL should be more like about Stephanie or about business, and the headline should be the H1 or the H2, and would that be different than the URL convention? All right, well, I love this question, but I was like, let's break it down in the Q&A because trying to answer that in the chat box would have been tough. I think that the navigation should say about me, or about us, like Beth said. I think that the permalink that you're using, which is the structure that comes, your domain / and then what are the words that come after that, you can make that kind of whatever makes sense for you. Personally, I like to just keep it as about. I don't think that we need to make it more difficult than it needs to be, because sometimes you may want to have to type that in and just say, like, link someone to your about page. I'd say make it as easy as possible. If you prefer to say about Stephanie last name, you can do that too. It's really, at that point, it's a stylistic choice. And then the headline, which is what Beth was talking about, where you bring in your value proposition instead of having your H1 tag. For those of you who know the SEO of H tags, I don't want to get into too much SEO here, but to have your headline and your H1 tag be your value proposition there, which can include your name, and then your subtitle can be your H2 tag, absolutely. So I think I answered the 4-part question there. Chris asked a question. I'm going to throw this one totally back to you. I've read over and over that your about page should be about your potential customers and what you can do for them. Don't even say a thing about yourself till the very end. Is that still the very best practice?
No, I don't think it is. I think there's a way of incorporating, but again, it depends on your brand and who you are. So many of these questions do, but I don't think the part where you are introducing yourself into the story should be held off until the final paragraph. I think you need to kind of weave them together. Your opening should absolutely be about them, but then what you're doing is morphing in the story and saying, I realize you have this problem. Here's how I personally can help you solve it, or me as a company, or us as a company, that kind of thing. Here's how we can help, because they do want to know about you. They don't want that to be just at the final line, like, oh yeah, I'm qualified, here I am. So yeah, so there's a fine line. And in fact, that's another good distinction between your homepage and your about page, is that your about page, it really is, it's mostly about your customer, but there's a lot of you in it as well. So, and that may not be true on your homepage.
Excellent. And so I'm going to add a follow-up question that just came in, which is Rebecca asking, can you include a short formal bio beneath the fold of the about page, or should that be on a separate page?
I think you could. I don't think it's necessary, but if you're somebody who does a lot of presentations, that kind of thing, and you need to point people toward a page and say, you can grab a 1-paragraph bio of me on my page. I've seen that done before for people who do a lot of speaking, that kind of thing. But unless it's really important for somebody to see that sort of summary version of you, that's a short bio, I don't think it's 100% necessary. In certain circumstances, maybe. If you have somebody who needs to grab it, basically, and you need an easy place to put that, then maybe. So
yeah, I've seen it where it's like, here's the actual about page, and then at the bottom it even says, like, here's the formal bio for media. Or you can put it on your media page if you have a media page. That might also works.
Yes.
I have a couple questions that are specifically about people's businesses, but I want to ask about your offer. How long is the link good for? When can people buy this until?
Yeah, so today is Thursday. It will be good until next Wednesday, and I will be sending some follow-up emails about it too, but you have until next Wednesday to take advantage of the special Meg offer.
Perfect. Charlotte owns 2 stores. Is there a 2-for-1 special?
I would talk to me about it. I would say email me, and we can chat about it. So
okay,
yeah,
so Beth's going to send. Yeah, Beth's going to send this all out as an email, and you can just reply to that email and reach out to her with that question.
Yeah.
And then Karen owns a marriage life coaching business with her husband. Should the About page be about them together or have individual stories, like why they both are in it?
Yeah. If your brand is the two of you together doing the marriage coaching, then I would say the two of you together. I'd love to get to know a little bit more about you before I give a hard and fast answer on that. But if what they're getting access to is the two of you, then potentially, yes, it should be your story and why you are qualified to help them, why you can help them with their problems. So yeah, but if they are doing individual coaching, then perhaps individual stories, if they're picking one of you or the other.
Yeah, and I think also you can say, like, we do marriage coaching because we're a married couple and I have this experience and he has this experience, and that is what makes us so powerful to work together with you. I think you can weave your personal narratives in there as a way of explaining why it's better to work with you than just one individual.
Yes, agreed. And really, I would imagine kind of what you're selling with marriage coaching is we have an awesome marriage.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also, I think it's a great idea to weave in some personal stories, but you don't necessarily want to have different sections for each person in there because they're buying you as a couple and why, you have a successful marriage. That's what they want. So
totally.
Yeah.
Brett says, jewelry designer who employs women from homeless shelters to make our product. No one needs what we do, and we're considered high-end fashion jewelry. Where to begin? Am I solving homelessness, or how do I find the balance?
I'd love to have you join us in a couple of weeks for a nonprofit webinar that we're doing with our friend Sherry Quam-Taylor. So if I can do a lead into that, I think that would be really great. She is fabulous at helping nonprofits figure out their messaging. It is a little different with nonprofits because what you're appealing to is people's sense of wanting to do the right thing and wanting to make the world a better place. And so that's kind of what you're addressing on your homepage and your About page. So yes, it could be about the story of how you founded this, and I would imagine in your situation, the story of the women who work for you as well. So yeah, there's a different elements in there, but what you're trying to appeal to people is, no, you don't need this, but you want this because it will help make the world a better place. So that's kind of what you're addressing. So yeah, but you're still answering the question, why should I care?
Yeah.
So, but the answer is it's because it's an awesome project and you're doing the right thing and you're helping people.
Totally.
Yeah. Good question. But come to Sherry's webinar in a couple weeks. Yeah, you're on my list now, so you will hear about that. So yeah,
Sherry is so awesome at messaging for nonprofits to help them raise more money and make more sales. So you should absolutely check on that. For everyone in here who's, especially in the nonprofit space, definitely get on Beth's email and find out more.
Yep.
Jessica asks, how should I write objections into my homepage or into my About page? How should I write the objections in?
Yeah, it depends on. Again, like every answer starts with it depends. Tell us a little bit more about the kind of objection that you'd want to address, and I could potentially give you some tips. It's not always appropriate in every situation, but what I would say with that is if you can't work it into your About page and it doesn't seem logical to you to do it there are other places on the pages in your site where you can address those objections. But if you've got one like Sarah, where they actually have some kind of objection to working with her as a person because they feel like she's going to be judgmental as a professional organizer, that's the perfect place to put an objection in there. That's why I offered it as a bonus kind of option. Like if you can do it, great. If you can't, that's okay too. But tell us a little bit more about your circumstance if you want to, if you're willing.
Jessica said she's a virtual assistant, so objections are like, I don't have enough money, it's time consuming to hire, I don't know how to delegate.
See,
I would say, I'm a virtual assistant and I help people with XYZ. I work with clients who struggle with finding time to outsource things and they don't necessarily know how to delegate to a team, and they're wondering if investing in a team member will actually pay off in the long term. And if that sounds like you, here's how we can work together. Yeah,
in fact, you could put that right at the opening, the way that Betsy does with her page, Betsy Talbot, because she actually talks about problems and objections right at the beginning of her page. It's like, here are your struggles. You feel like you can't delegate, that kind of thing. So you could work it into your opening instead of trying to put it further down in the page. That's why I paused, because I was thinking, wait, I was thinking about all kinds of different options, but you could work that right into your opening.
Yeah, I'm Jessica and I help this audience and then you can launch right into the objections. And here's how I help them and here's how we can work together and now book a call.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very good at outlining other people's stuff that I don't have to do the writing for.
So many of these questions are tough because it really depends. Yeah, but they're great questions. Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else?
Yeah, 2 more questions. Maybe more will come in while I'm asking these. Kimberly says, I saw someone on here does websites for interior designers. I noticed that 90% of interior design websites have almost no text on the homepage. Is this a thing? I'm not a web designer, so I'm hesitant to suggest that they change it. I have thoughts. Do you have thoughts?
I'd rather hear yours, actually, because from a search engine perspective, I think it's really important to do that right. From a messaging perspective, I would just say really quickly that I do think it's still important to let people know what you do and why they should pick you on your homepage. So you don't want to go so minimalist that somebody looks at it and it's like, well, are they selling furniture? Are they selling, like, what the heck is this? You know, so I understand it's all about the appeal and the design, but you don't want to go so minimal that they don't get it, that they don't immediately get it in, like, you know, half a second when they land on your page, who you are and what you do. But Meg, what do you think from an SEO perspective?
As someone who does SEO for a large handful of interior designers, photographers, web designers, all these really visual places, I think that sometimes it's okay to have a heavily imaged homepage, but we do, like Beth says, need to make it clear, here's who I am, here's who I work with, here's where I work with them, in a space like interior design where you say, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and if people call me from California, I'm not going to fly to California to do their project. So there is kind of a minimum value proposition that you should have on your homepage. I help people with home design. I help people with commercial design, and making that clear. I don't think that you have to write everything that you do on your homepage, but you do have to give the bare minimum, and then you have to give those details elsewhere on your website. So it doesn't have to fit on your homepage if you want that minimal aesthetic, but you have to balance value with aesthetics.
Yes. Yep, we're in agreement on that one too.
And then since we're talking about homepages, that leads us into what I think is our final question from Sarah. Anyone have recommendations on where to find something similar to this for writing your homepage?
Similar to this, meaning another webinar or sort of teaching kind of thing about?
Yeah, like who says a webinar or a book or something like that. Beth,
yeah.
You want to do another next month about the homepages?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, because it's a whole different set of problems, you know, and mistakes that I could go into. So yeah, we can talk about some kind of follow-up webinar with that. What I'd say is get on my list, because I'm doing, and many of you opted in to get on my regular list when you signed up for this webinar, but if you're not, reach out to me, just drop me an email in response to one of the reminders or something like that, and let me know you want to get on my list. So if we do follow-up webinars about homepage copy, I can let you know. I will say I am absolutely happy to do a very similar review with somebody's entire website. So I do quite a bit of that. We wanted to just focus on the About page for now and do this special offer, but I do a lot of feedback sessions where somebody says, I've got a 5-page website. I need your feedback on every single page. So if that's of interest to you, let me know. Because that can involve some back and forth too, where you can do multiple drafts and I can give you feedback. So get in touch with me and I'll try to help for sure. In the meantime, there's also a book I'd like to recommend. I'm a big fan of the StoryBrand approach, and the book is called, I've got it right here, Building a Story Brand.
Building a Story Brand.
Yeah, called by Donald Miller and storybrand.com. He does certification programs and stuff like that where you can, as a consultant, come in and get certified as a StoryBrand consultant. But the book outlines a really good approach to copywriting on your homepage and your internal pages. So that's a good place to start too. But I'm happy to give feedback. That's a long answer, but yes. Yeah.
And we're definitely getting people saying yes, like, yes, do the homepage webinar. So that'll be next on Beth's list. And some people were saying, like, will you look at the About page in the context of the greater site, which I'm assuming you will because you don't understand what the website is, but the feedback for the About page will be about the About page. Yes. And then one final question, I think, which is Bryce saying, if we put objections on the About page, should we also be putting them on the homepage, or kind of where does this belong? So again, my first question was what goes on the homepage and what goes on the About page. So yeah. Quick overview, and we can do the follow-up webinar for it too.
Yeah, your homepage, I would say, is more about here's what we do, and then making it sound as as easy as possible to get to the next step. This is something we didn't talk about much, but Meg, my approach to homepages is very sort of, God, and we're getting too much into home pages, but it can act as a portal to internal pages on your site. You want to kind of invite people in and want to your main jobs is telling people this is what I do, and it is incredibly easy to get started with me. So those are the kinds of things. I'm not sure you're going deep into objections on your homepage, but I love going into detail on them on sales pages and things like that, where it's a more specific like online course offer or something like that. That's where you can really dig into it. But unless there's something huge that is coming up for people and you actually need to put it like in the homepage, or in the hero section on the homepage, perhaps like the virtual assistant where you'd actually put it in the promise right in your hero section. Don't have time to outsource, I can help, something along those lines. But you don't want to go into a long story, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a long answer.
All right. I
have lots to say. Yeah.
I think that's it. We still have about half the audience here. I know a lot of people had to pop off. So guys, go get your about page reviews. Like I put in the chat box, like Beth is on the team of people that wrote my about page, and I kind of want to go get an about page review because between Beth's brain is so valuable, and the price that she's giving it at, and the 2-year window to use it, like go get it now because it's only going to be available until next Wednesday at this price. Go grab it. Even if you don't have your about page written, even if you don't know where to start with it, use the process she outlined. Get her that shitty first draft is what Anne Lamott calls it, right?
Yes.
And her take it from there. But this is something that's such an important piece of your website. It's great for your SEO. It's great for your conversions and people liking to trust you faster and want to work with you. So this is a great investment in your business, and Beth's brain is awesome. So go get yourself your copy of this, or your spot on her calendar for these about page reviews. Okay.
Thank you so much, Meg. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for being here with me. And I really appreciate you speaking to my audience and being our guest expert. And
yes,
I know everyone's looking forward to hearing more from you. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you hosting me. You've been wonderful. Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, you have to be the one to hit the end session button in the upper right.
Okay. Let me get back to where I was at Demio. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.